Alright, here we go. Nefeltari Vivi, the noble princess of the Alabasta Kingdom, is the next leader set to release in the One Piece TCG. And with additional support in EB03 as well as the recent EB04 drop, this deck is a powerful option to play because of its power manipulation, its board control, and most notably our 2 leader abilities to protect our characters from KO and give them rush. So far I've been having a lot of fun playing this deck, so let's check out how to play Red Blue Vivi. To break down how this video is going to go, first we're going to look through a Vivi deck guide. We'll look through a couple winning deck lists over from the East, and then we'll hop over in the sim and see 2 games in action. All timestamps are going to be listed below. All deck lists and websites will be available in the description, and if you have any questions or comments, just leave them in the comment section below. All right, let's dive in, but first a word from our sponsor, which is nobody, because we are still a new channel. But if you leave a like and subscribe, it would be greatly appreciated. All right, let's go. All right, we're over here on spellmana.com, and here we can see for Red Blue Vivi, EB03 Heroines Edition introduces a new leader version of the Princess of the Alabasta Kingdom. Vivi protects her base cost of 4 or more characters. She also thrives in controlling the board using her power reduction to weaken opponents' characters and make them easier targets to remove. So if we check out Vivi's leader ability, we see it's translated over here. Once per turn, if your character with a base cost of 4 or more would be KO'd, you may trash 1 card from your hand instead. But that's not all. Our activate main with this leader, you may rest this leader, give up to one of your opponent's characters negative 2,000 power during this turn, then up to one of your characters without a win attacking effect gains rush during this turn. Really cool effect, really cool to protect our characters and then get aggressive and give our characters rush. There's just so many useful ways we can go about utilizing our leader when we start building our game plan. But we'll get into that once we look through our deck list and dive into the game plan. For now, let's take a look at the deck list that we're running with this guide. We'll briefly look over each card in this deck, and then as we go further through the guide, we'll break down in deeper detail how to use each of these cards in action. But starting off, we are running 3 Ace, Sabo, and Luffy, the 1 cost. Its activate main is you may give one of your active Dawn cards to one of your leader or character cards and trash this character, then give up to one of your opponent's characters negative 3,000 power during this turn. And we'll see that with a lot of cards in this deck. There's a theme of reducing the power of our opponent's characters. Ace, Sabo, Luffy is also a 2k counter, which is always useful to have. All right, next we're running 4 Nefeltari Vivi. This is going to be our searcher in this deck. 1 cost, 1k counter. We can do a top 4 search and look for any Alabasta or Straw Hat Crew type card with a cost of 2 or more. Next we are running 4 Sanji, 2 cost, 2k counter Sanji that gives any of our Straw Hat Crew type characters unblockable. I will say this card is pretty optional in this deck. You'll see not all of our characters are Straw Hat Crew type. It's nice that it's a 2k counter, but we'll also see some other tech options that we could swap in instead of Sanji. All right, next we're running 4 of the 3 cost Sanji. This is the 3 cost 3k power. With the effect on your turn, this character gains 3,000 power, and then on KO, draw 1 card. It's nice to be able to have cards that allow us to draw because of our leader ability, requiring us to trash a card from hand to protect a character. And since Sanji does not have a win attacking effect too, we can utilize our leader ability to swing 6k in right away when we play this card. Very nice. We're also running one Charlotte Pudding. Charlotte Pudding's just a universally good card in most blue decks. If you don't know, on play, your opponent returns all the cards in their hand to their deck, shuffles their deck, and then draws 5 cards. Definitely a strong card to slow down our opponent's game plan if they're starting to build a very large hand size. Next, we're running 4 Tony Chopper. This is a 4 cost, 4k body, 2k counter. With the effect on our opponent's turn, this card gains 2,000 power. Really nice 4 cost blocker to have in this deck, especially because it can be protected by our leader ability. Next, we're running 4 Cavendish, 4 cost, 6k body. With the win attacking effect, once per turn, we can draw 2, trash 1. Again, another card that just helps us build cards in hand so that we can utilize our leader ability. Next, we're running 4 Nefeltari Vivi. This card is coming out in EB03. It's a blocker, 5 cost 4K body. With the effect on play, we can play up to 1 Alabasta or Straw Hat Crew type character with a cost of 5 or less from our hand. Then we can't play any character cards on the field during the rest of the turn. Really nice on our 5 Dawn turn to be able to play Vivi and then chain out either another 5 cost Nami or this 5 cost Nami or a Tony Chopper. Next, we're running 4 of the 5 cost blue Nami, 6K blocker. On play, if your leader is multicolored, draw 3 cards and place 2 cards from your hand at the top or bottom of your deck in any order. So on play, we get to go hand neutral. We get to fix our hand just a little bit. And then it's another blocker that we can utilize our leader ability to protect from KO. Next, we're running 4 of the 5 cost red Nami. This is a 7,000 power body coming out in EB03. The effect on play, you may give your active leader negative 5,000 power during this turn, draw 1 card. The activate main, once per turn, if your leader has the Alabasta type, give up to one of your opponent's characters negative 1,000 power during this turn. Very versatile card in this deck. It doesn't have a win attacking, so when we play it, we can rush right away. Okay, next we're running 4 Ben Beckman. This card came out in OP09, 7 cost, 7,000 power. It's on play, we get to trash one of our opponent's characters with 6,000 power or less. Comboing with our leader ability, we can trash a character that's 8,000 power. And if we have Nami on the board, we could trash a character that's up to 9,000 power. And it's a trash the character, so it's not KOing them. So there's certain board removal effects that we work around because of trashing, not KOing. Now let's talk about our late game cards. We have the 10 cost Kaido. This card is just so cool to me. It's on play. We get to draw 4 cards if the opponent has 3 or less life. Again, it's another card we can rush with right away using our leader ability. We're also running 4 of the 10 cost Shanks. On play, we get to KO one of your opponent's characters with 10,000 power or less. Another card that doesn't have a win attacking, so we can rush right away with it. We can clear a body off the board. It's a 12,000 power body, so it just puts a lot of pressure on our opponent, especially if we're going for a lethal attack. Let's look at our events here. We're running 4, but if we see each other again, will you call me your shipmates? This card is a counter. If your leader is Vivi, up to one of your leader or character cards gains 4,000 power during this battle, and it's only at 1 cost. It also has the trigger, give up to one of your opponent's characters negative 2,000 power during this turn. All right, and lastly, we're running 1 of this event. If I give into the force, there'll be no point to my life. Its main effect, you may rest one of your Dawn cards. If you have 1 or less life cards, when your leader attacks, your opponent cannot activate blocker during this turn. So definitely a win condition card. It's also just a 1 cost 3K counter for our leader if needed. So that's the deck list right there. Let's dive into how to play this deck. We'll go through the game plan and then talk about which curve is best for Vivi. Starting off, we have our early searcher play with our 1 cost Vivi, and typically we're looking for cards like Sanji, Vivi, or Nami. And to clarify, that's the 5 cost Vivi or either of our 5 cost Namis. In most situations, I like grabbing our red Nami and getting it on the board as soon as we can. And then next, we're looking to play out our 3 cost Sanji or our 4 cost Cavendish if we're on the even curve. With the 3 cost Sanji, during our defensive turn, Sanji is pretty tough to protect with our counter. But if Sanji does get KO'd, we still get to draw a card off him, so we're still getting some value there. And with the 4 cost Cavendish, being a 6,000 power, it puts a lot of pressure on our opponents early in the game. We want to make use of his win attacking effect, getting access to the card draw. So the more we attack with Cavendish, the more value we're generating. We also have Pudding as an option. Typically, we want to save Pudding for when our opponent starts building up a lot of cards in hand, which tends to be more like mid to late game. All right, next we have our 5 cost Namis. We also have our 5 cost Vivi. I'm going to group all these together if we're talking about our 5 Dawn turn here. So typically, if you have Vivi and one of these cards, we're looking to play Vivi and chain out one of our Namis. If we don't have Vivi, going for just a 5 cost Nami play is a good option as well. Let's start with our blue Nami. The 5 cost Nami, 6,000 power blocker. It can still become an aggressor when need be. When played, Nami lets you draw 3 cards and place 2 cards from your hand to the top or bottom of your deck. So it just lets us fix our hand a little bit. We can determine if we have cards we would like on our upcoming turns. We'll put them at the top of our deck. Or if we just need to get rid of a couple bricks in hand or cards we know we're not going to use, we'll just send them to the bottom keep some fresh cards coming in. All right, and we also have our red Nami. Again, with the on play, we give our leader negative 5,000 power, and then we get to draw a card. So with both Namis, we're going hand neutral, and then we have the option right away to use Nami's main effect to give an opponent's character negative 1,000 power. And since both of these Namis do not have a when attacking effect, we do have the option to use our leader ability as well to give them rush, which also reduces an opponent's character by another 2,000 power. This 5-cost Vivi, however, it's only a 4,000 power character, but it is a blocker, and we get to cheat out an Alabaster Straw Hat Crew type character with a cost of 5 or less. So going wide on the board on our 5-Dawn turn, one of our best plays that we can do in this deck. Let's move on to our 7-Dawn turns here. We're looking at our control cards now. If we have Ben Beckman in hand, we can play him right away and trash an opponent's character with 6,000 power or less. And if we pair that with our leader Vivi's ability, we can target characters up to 8,000 power and trash them. I will say if our opponent does have a character with 8,000 power and we're looking to trash it, we'll have to utilize our leader's ability first before we play the Beckman, which means we won't be able to give the Beckman rush this turn. All right, let's transition into the late game. We've widened our board, we've controlled our opponent's board, we've weakened their characters to swing into them or trash them. We're building our hand resources with cards like Cavendish, and now we are up to 10 Dawn. We're looking to play Shanks or we're looking to play Kaido. It depends on the situation. But looking at Shanks. Shanks is a late game removal play. We get to KO a 10,000 power character on play. And then with our leader ability, we can give Shanks rush and swing in right away. We also have Kaido. Kaido is a massive late game play that focuses on replenishing our hand. We get to draw 4 cards if our opponent has 3 or less life. And by the time it's our 10 Dawn turn, that typically tends to be the case. And again, with our leader ability, we can give Kaido rush the turn he's played and swing in with another 12,000 power body. So whether we're playing Kaido or whether we're playing Shanks, it just depends on the board state and the situation, but both are just great 10 Dawn turn plays. All right, let's look at the 2K counters we're running in this deck. So we have Ace Sabo and Luffy, we have Sanji, and we have Tony Chopper. All of them have really strong utility as well. Ace Sabo and Luffy, we can weaken a character by 3,000 power, enabling us to use our removal effects or just swing in at weakened characters. 2-cost Sanji can give a Straw Hat Crew type unblockable. So let's see what Straw Hat Crew types we're running in this deck again. I believe Nami. Yeah, both of our Nami should be Straw Hat Crew type. But the Shanks is not. The Kaido is not. The Beckman is not. So again, we'll look at some other tech options for the Sanji, but being a 2K counter, it's just always nice to have in the deck. And then Tony Chopper is a blocker. It gains 2,000 power on our opponent's turn, so 6,000 power blocker we can protect with our leader ability. All right, let's look at our events. So, but if we see each other again, will you call me your shipmate? It's just a 1-cost 4K counter to protect our leader or characters. And then if I give into the force, there'll be no points in my life. Give our leader unblockable. We can go for lethal with this card or just use it as a counter event. Let's look at our mulligan tips next. So for going first, we're looking to play our Searcher into our 3-cost Sanji, into the 5-cost Vivi, where we can chain out one of our 5-cost Namis, and then play out our 7-cost Ben Beckman. If we're going second, the only real difference is going for the 4-cost Cavendish instead of the 3-cost Sanji on our 4-Dawn turn. But overall, pretty consistent game plan whether we're going first or second. And while this deck is flexible, if you do win dice roll and get to choose first or second, I think most of the time Vivi prefers to go first. And that's because if we can get our 5-cost Vivi chained out with a 5-cost Nami on curve, it just really sets us up and puts us ahead of our opponent, giving us that early advantage. All right, let's look at a couple general tips here. So identify when you need your leader Vivi's effect. Activating your leader's effect means you'll lose her attack, but the power reduction plus the rush keyword can be a game swinger. Next tip, protect 4-cost characters and trash dead cards. Protect cards like Cavendish or Tony Chopper. I'd also say any of our blockers through your leader effect. We can also trash dead cards in hand. Any bricks, basically. We can just use those to enable our leader ability. Next, let's look at some tech options. So these are cards that you could definitely consider including in the deck. Starting off, we have our 3-cost Vivi. Her on play, if we have 5 or less cards in hand, we get to draw 2 cards. Early in the game, 3 Dawn turn, Vivi is just a nice option to play. Personally, I like running Vivi in my deck list. I think I swap out one of the Sanjis, maybe 2 of the Sanjis, the 3-cost ones, for 2 of the Vivis. I can't remember. We'll have to wait till we break down the deck list for the gameplay today. We also have Jozu as an option. Most people probably know Jozu, but we get to return one of our characters to our hand and then return one of our opponent's characters with a cost of 6 or less to their hand. So a strong board control option. We also have Silver's Rayleigh. It's on play. We get to select 2 of our opponent's characters and give one character negative 3,000 power and the other negative 2,000 power until the end of your opponent's next turn. Then we get to KO one of our opponent's characters with 3,000 power or less. So just a really versatile effect that's right in the theme of what this deck is trying to do. It's also 8,000 power body that we can rush in with leader ability. We also have EB04, which comes with more tech options to talk about, but we're going to get to that in just a bit when we take a look at some winning deck lists. For closing words, the EB03 Red Blue Vivi is a fun leader to pick up. She's a control leader who wants to weaken our opponent's side of the field, making it easier to remove their characters and put them behind in the game. Lots of room to experiment with Vivi, as we'll see. Let's dive into a couple winning deck lists over from the East. All right, we're over on gumgum.gg, and here we have a winning Nefeltari Vivi deck list. This was from a flagship tournament that had 54 players. This deck went undefeated. For this list, they're running 4 Otama, so right away we're seeing another tech option. This is a 2k counter. On play, give up to one of your opponent's characters negative 2,000 power during this turn. Doing a similar thing to what the Ace Sabo and Luffy 1-cost 2k counter is doing. Next, they're running 4 of the Ace Sabo and Luffy. So this deck already seems to be leaning more into the power manipulation and weakening the opponent's characters. They're running 3 of the 3-cost Vivi that we saw. They're running 4 Tony Chopper, 4 Cavendish, 4 of the EB03 Vivi, 4 of the blue 5-cost Nami, 4 of the red 5-cost Nami, 4 Ben Beckman. Here we see 4 of the Silver's Rayleigh, so this deck going for the Silver's Rayleigh build. They're running 4 Kaido, 3 Shanks, and then 1 Goldie Roger. I guess this card is just pretty universally strong in most red decks, going for that win condition. They're running 2 of this event, so here we see another tech option, Bad Manners Kick Course. 0-cost counter, we get to trash a card from hand and give a leader or character 3,000 power during a battle. So that's just a versatile counter event. And then they're running 1 Red Rock. Again, just another universally staple card in most blue decks. So they're going for more board control here. Overall, not too far off from the deck guide list that we saw. Let's check out one more deck list. All right, so here we have a first place list from an event that was just 2 days ago. So here we're going to see some EB04 support, which we haven't really talked about yet. But first, they're running 4 of the VV Searcher, 4 of this Terracotta. This is an EB04 card, 2k counter. You may rest this character and trash 1 card from your hand. Up to 1 of your Alabasta type characters gains unblockable during this turn. So this card is just a replacement for the 2-cost Sanji. I think it's a little bit of a better fit for this deck. Being an Alabasta type, we'll see that we have options like this EB04 Shaka and Pell. Personally, I love including this card in my deck list, but we are going to get to that. This deck is also running 3 Egram. Another EB04 card, if your leader is Vivi, draw 2 cards, trash 1 card from your hand. Activate main once per turn. You may trash 1 card from your hand, give up to 1 rested Dawn card to your leader or 1 of your characters. So again, now that EB04 is out, we're going to see some more of the EB04 tech options in this build. And honestly, I think they're all strong tech choices to experiment with. Next in this list, they're running 1 Charlotte Pudding, 4 Tony Chopper, 4 of the 5-cost Vivi, 4 of the blue Nami, 4 of the red Nami, and then here we see another EB04 tech option, 7-cost Nefeltari Vivi. On play, we get to play 1 Alabasta type character with a cost of 8 or less other than Vivi from your hand. Then your opponent places 1 card from their hand to the bottom of their deck. Since we don't have too many 8-cost Alabasta options yet. Personally, I'm not quite sold on it being a part of the deck yet. In the playtesting I've done with it, it tends to just be used as a 1k counter. I don't find many times when I get to really maximize the value of its effect, but it's still an interesting choice. Feel free to give it a shot. Next, this deck is running 4 Ben Beckman. They're running 2 of this new Zoro, EB04 7-cost Zoro. On play, your leader gains 2,000 power until the end of your opponent's next end phase. And the activate main once per turn. If your opponent has a character with 8,000 power or more, this character gains rush character during this turn. Definitely a valid option to try out. Okay, next we're running 3 Shaka and Pell, another EB04 card. I love this card. I put this card in my deck. It's an 8-cost, 9,000 power body with double attack. I think it's so cool that it's Shaka and Pell. It's on play. You can give your leader negative 5,000 power during this turn and then draw 2 cards. So another card that just puts a lot of pressure on our opponent, forces them to use a lot of counter or take 2 life if we're swinging at their leader. Next, we're running 2 Shanks. This list is also running 1 Goldie Roger. They're running 4 of our 4K counter events, and then this list is running 2 Red Rock. Very nice. So we see some similarities with that last list with the Roger and the Red Rock. This deck list is updated with a lot more of the EB04 support. I definitely encourage you to try the EB04 support in your builds. But yeah, those are the lists right there. We see those tech options. Let's go hop over in the sim and we'll see the deck that I built out after doing some playtesting, and then we'll break down 2 games in action. All right, so after doing some playtesting, this is the list that I've been running with. We'll see some of the EB04 and tech support options in here. But for this list, we're running 3 of the Asabo Luffy, 4 of our Vivi Searcher, 3 of the 3-cost Sanji, 4 Tony Chopper, the blocker, 4 of our red 5-cost Nami, 4 Ben Beckman, 3 Shanks, 4 Terracotta, replacing the Sanji, 2 of the 3-cost Vivi, 1 Charlotte Pudding, 3 Cavendish, 4 of our EB03 Vivi, 4 of the blue 5-cost Nami, 2 Shaka and Pell, 1 Kaido, and then 4 of our 4K counter events. All right, let's go see this deck in action. All right, for our first matchup, it's only right that the Princess of the Alabasta Kingdom goes up against Crocodile. So speed is going to be on 1.5x. We may pause at times to break some things down, but here we go. And our opponent did win dice roll, and they chose to go first this matchup. So we are going second. Our opponent starts off playing a Miss Valentine. They get to do a top search. They go ahead and pass the turn. All right. We start off with the Asabo Luffy and pass the turn. Our opponent swings in right away. They're swinging 5 with lead and then 5 with the Miss Valentine, putting that early pressure, and we go ahead and take both those lives. So hold on, just want to break down. First of all, we played the Asabo Luffy on our first turn. We're setting up to use that effect later in the game when we can weaken an opponent's character and go for some board removal. Now, it's our turn. We're swinging in. We're clearing off this Miss Valentine off the board with our leader, and then playing our Cavendish. So for Dawn turn, playing the Cavendish on curve is always nice. We go ahead and pass the turn. All right, they start off with another search with Miss Valentine. And then they play out Mr. 2. They go ahead and trash the Mr. 2 with leader ability. That's going to allow them to play out Mr. 1, and they're able to rest our Cavendish and swing with the Mr. 1 right away. We protect the Cavendish with leader ability. We have to discard a card. They go ahead and swing at our leader with their leader 5 at 5, and we take that life, opting to keep our hand size where it's at and not use any counter. Our opponent goes ahead and passes the turn. We go ahead and play a 5-cost Nami. We utilize the 5-cost Nami ability. We get to draw a card. We use leader ability to give the Nami rush and their Mr. 1 negative 2,000 power. We swing in with Cavendish at the Mr. 1. We get to draw 2, trash 1. We land the KO. We go ahead and swing with our Nami 7k at lead, and they take that life. We strike our opponent's life, then we finish the turn playing a Vivi Searcher. We go ahead and grab our 5-cost Vivi and pass the turn. Our opponent starts off with a Miss All Sunday, so this game is moving fast. I'm trying to keep up with it. But they play Miss All Sunday. That means they get to play out Mr. 2, and they get to play out a Miss Valentine Searcher. They are searching. They trash the Mr. 2, and that's going to allow them to play another Mr. 1. They're putting the pressure on. They swing 6k at our Cavendish. 6 at 6. All right, we go ahead and use leader ability to discard a card and keep the Cavendish from being KO'd. They go ahead and swing at life with leader, and this time we do counter out with the 2K. Very good. We use Nami's ability right away to give their Mr. 1 negative 1,000 power. All right, we go ahead and swing at the Mr. 1 with Nami, 7K, swinging at 5. Okay, we land the KO. We go ahead and swing with Cavendish, 6 at lead. We get to draw 2, trash 1. We do get a Charlotte Pudding in hand. Could be an interesting play. Our opponent goes ahead and counters out of that attack. Here we're checking their hand size. They have 7 cards in hand. Pudding could be worth the play, but we could also play a 5-cost Vivi and chain out our Tony Chopper and just get a couple blockers on the board. Yeah, so we attach 3 Dawn to Vivi, our Searcher Vivi, and we swing 5 at lead. Just another 5K poke. Yeah, and there we go. So we do play out the 5-cost Vivi. We get to chain out the Chopper. We swing 5K with our leader at their leader, and they counter out with the 1K. So our opponent still has 4 life, but we're able to get a couple bodies, a couple blockers on the board. Our opponent, now they go ahead and play the Crocodile, and they get to freeze. I believe they'll be able to freeze 2 of our characters. Yeah, so they froze our Cavendish and our 5-cost red Nami. They're swinging 8K with Miss All Sunday at lead. We counter out, we block with the Vivi, and then we use our leader ability to discard a card and prevent our Vivi blocker from being KO'd. That's one of the best defensive combos this Vivi deck has, is blocking and then using leader ability to keep the blocker alive. All right, so here we're considering, do we use the Ace-Sabo Luffy now? Do we weaken the Miss All Sunday? We do have a Shaka and Pell in hand we just drew. We also have a Kaido and a Shanks. Yeah, so we play the Shanks. That's going to allow us to KO the Miss All Sunday right away. We go ahead and rush in with the Shanks, and we pass the turn. And we see our opponent gets a second Croc on the field. They're going to do some Croc activities. They freeze our Cavendish, and they freeze our Shanks. All right. They swing 5K in. We can just block out of that for free with Tony Chopper. They swing with their Crocodile 10K, and we let the Vivi get KO'd. We decided to not discard a card to protect our Vivi there. So let's break that down real quick. Why let the Vivi go there? Well, simply because I'm looking to play Kaido or Shaka and Pell on this turn. And I'd rather let the Vivi go than any of the other characters, frankly. Let's see what we do with our next 10 Dawn turn. All right, we can swing with the Nami. We swing at lead, 7 at 5. Our opponent counters out, 2K and a 1K. And we go ahead and choose to play the Kaido. We get to draw 4 cards, and we give the Kaido rush with our leader. We swing in 12K at their life, and our opponent takes that life. Strong play there. Looks like our opponent gets a trigger. They get a patchwork trigger. They get to draw 2, trash 1. All right, we go ahead and pass the turn. So both of us down to 2 life, and our opponent gets a 3rd Crocodile on the field. Crocodile doing exactly what their game plan aims to do. They lock down the Cavendish, and they lock down Nami, and then they use a patchwork to freeze our Kaido from being able to even restand. They swing 5K in. We go ahead and just counter out. Yeah, so we know they're going to swing in with 2 Crocodiles here. This attack with the Crocodile, we are going to block with Tony Chopper. We discard a card from hand to keep the Chopper alive. They swing another 10K with another Crocodile. We have 3 2K counter cards in hand, and we decide to use them. We counter out of that attack with 3 2K counters, protecting our life. We have 2 lives left. Okay, we are down to the wire. We're going to have to be careful here not to overextend. And our opponent has a Dawn up. They have several cards in hand. I'm sure they'll be able to counter out of at least 1 attack. Okay, we start off attaching 4 Dawn to our leader, and we're swinging in. We're swinging 9 at life. And our opponent takes that attack. We swing with the Shanks, 12K coming in, and our opponent takes that life as well. Looks like they may have gotten a trigger there to do a search. And okay, so we go ahead and decide to play our 5-cost Vivi and chain out a 5-cost blue Nami. Just a couple more blockers on the field. We do have to lose our Cavendish and our Nami, but they were both frozen from attacking anyway because of our opponent's Crocodiles. Our opponent starts off their next turn with a Ground Death. 2 Ground Deaths. So they nullify both or 2 of our blockers. So we can't block with 2 of them. Wow, okay. 3 Crocodile attacks incoming, plus 4 Dawn standing. We counter out of that attack, or block that attack with Tony Chopper. We let the Tony Chopper go. We do have a Dawn standing. We have a 4K counter event in hand. Our opponent swings 10K with another Crocodile. We have no blockers left. We take that life. Our opponent swings another 10K in. We have the counter in hand. We could counter out of this attack, but we choose to take that life. And our opponent attaches the rest of their Dawn to lead. They're swinging 9K in, and we have our counter event plus a 1K counter to protect ourselves from their lethal swing. Our turn now, and we have our 12K Shanks and Kaido. We're swinging in for lethal, and we land lethal with the Shanks. Red Blue Vivi getting the win, saving Alabarna and the Alabasta Kingdom from Crocodile. GG's to our opponent, very well played. We were able to play around their Crocodiles by rushing in with our 12K bodies using our leader ability, and then we protected ourselves with our blockers and leader ability to keep our blockers standing throughout the game. So Crocodile's late game is all about freezing our characters. If we can get big bodies and then rush with them right away, that's how we put the pressure on, and that's how we were able to get to a board state where we could swing for lethal. GG's, let's get into the next one. All right, for our next matchup, we're going against Emu. Many people still consider Emu to be the top deck in the meta, but this game was interesting because we get to see the flexibility of Vivi's curve. We won dice roll, and we are choosing to go second in this matchup to take second away from Emu. We decide to keep our opening hand. We do have the Cavendish, which is always great to play on curve. Our opponent uses leader ability to start their turn and then pass, so they cycle a card in their hand. We have to just pass our opening turn. We don't have any searchers in hand. Hold on real quick, just want to break something down. We do have the 1-cost Asabo Luffy in hand, but in this particular matchup, we know that Emu's only going to be playing characters with 5,000 power, and all of their characters are going to be protected from board removal effects. So in this case, I think the Asabo Luffy is going to be better utilized as a 2K counter in hand. Let's see, and then our opponent here, on their 3 Dawn turn, they just attach 3 Dawn to lead, and they swing at us. We decide to use a counter event to get out of that early attack. So we're already seeing some differences in how we're approaching the matchup against Crocodile versus Emu. Here we're being a little bit more protective, keeping the Asabo Luffy in hand, using a counter event early to protect our early life. All right, let's see how it goes from here. 4 Dawn turn for us now. We start with a 5K swing, leader at Emu. And they counter out with the 1K. We go ahead and follow our game plan. We play the Cavendish and pass the turn. All right, our opponent gets a Saint Sharia out. They get to do a top search. They're cycling cards with leader ability. They go ahead and play a Warcury, 5K blocker. They swing in with leader, and we take that life. So we choose not to counter out of that attack. We go ahead now and swing with the Cavendish. We get to draw 2, trash 1, 6K, going at life. Okay, our opponent chooses to block out of that attack with the Warcury. We go ahead and do a search with our Vivi. We were looking for the 5-cost Vivi. We don't find it, but we can go ahead and play our 5-cost red Nami. We give it rush with leader ability, swinging at lead, 7K, and our opponent takes that life, getting them down to 3 life. Putting some early pressure on, we pass the turn. 7 Dawn turn for our opponent now. Okay, they use leader ability. They get to draw a card, cycling out the Sharia. They play another Sharia. They do another top search. Our opponent's starting to build their hand. And there we go. We see the Mars enter the field. They decide to not use the Mars ability because, real quick, our leader ability prevents our characters from being KO'd. Yes, we would have to lose a card from hand, But to use Mars' ability, our opponent has to lose a card from hand. It looks like they're choosing to keep their hand size right where it's at. They decide to swing in 7K at the Cavendish, and we counter out with that Asabo Luffy. That 2K counter coming in handy. Our opponent passes the turn now. All right, we decide to give their blocker a negative 1,000 power with Nami, just weakening the blocker, and then we go ahead and swing with Cavendish. We get to draw 2, trash 1. Our opponent counters out of the Cavendish attack. We swing with Nami at lead, and they block out of that attack with the Mars. Next, we go ahead and play the Shaka and Pell. We give the Shaka and Pell rush, and we're swinging in 9 at 5. And our opponent has to counter out with a ground death and a counter out of hand. Putting a lot of pressure, getting their hand size down. We go ahead and pass the turn. Our opponent uses leader ability again. And I think, what are we, 1 turn away from the 5 Elders being able to flood the board. Our opponent swings at the Cavendish, 6K coming in. We go ahead and counter out. And our opponent passes the turn. 2 blockers standing, 10 Dawn turn. All right, we use Nami's ability. We weaken one of their blockers. All right, we start off swinging with the Cavendish. So we're getting a lot of value out of this Cavendish. We're drawing 2 and trashing 1 every time, and our opponent takes that life. We swing 7K with the Nami, and they counter out with a counter event. We swing with the Shaka and Pell. I imagine our opponent's going to block. Yep, so they block with the Warcury. They do get to draw a card. And here we see Kaido hit the board once more. We get to draw 4 cards because our opponent is down to less than 3 life. We get to rush in with the Kaido. Our opponent blocks out of that attack. So we have a Shaka and Pell, a Kaido on the board. And look at that. Hold on. We have 14 cards in our hand right now with the Cavendish and the Kaido, building up those resources. Let's see what our opponent can do next. And there it is, right on cue. So our opponent plays all 5 Elders, and none of them can be KO'd by effects, or removed for that matter by effects. The Noshiro is going to be able to give a character negative 2,000 power. They swing at life though, and they give our Nami, I think it looks like, yeah, they give our Nami negative 2,000 power. We counter out, 2K and a 1K. 6 coming in from lead. We go ahead and counter out with another 2K, and we still have over 10 cards in our hand. Our opponent has to pass the turn. They have 2 blockers, 4 cards in hand, 5 Dawn standing. All right, we swing with the Cavendish. Another draw 2, trash 1. 7 at 5. Our opponent counters out, 2K and a 1K. We get 2 cards out of hand. All right, we use Nami to weaken one of their blockers again, and we're swinging in. 7K at lead. Our opponent blocks out of that attack. We play Terracotta. That's going to be able to give our Shaka and Pell unblockable. So how strong of an attack do we want to swing in here? We're trying to get him down to 0 life with double attack. Okay, and we swing in with 11K, and our opponent doesn't have the counter to get out of it. 11K coming in. Our opponent down to 0 life. We swing with our leader, 5K. Our opponent counters out, and we swing with the Kaido, 12K at 5. I imagine our opponent will have to block out of this attack. No, they choose to counter. Okay, our opponent counters out of that last attack. All right, we end our turn playing a Tony Chopper, just getting a blocker on the board to protect ourselves. I think our opponent's only choice is to try to swing all out. Okay, it looks like our opponent's trying to swing into our board. 7K coming in at the Cavendish. And we decide to let the Cavendish go. That Cavendish was such a valuable card for us this whole matchup. I think every turn we got to draw 2, trash 1 with that Cavendish. 7K coming in. They're swinging at Nami. We counter out with the 1K. They attach 2 Dawn, and they're swinging 9K at the Nami. 9 at 7 now. Counter out of that. 3 1Ks. Another 7K coming in at the Nami. 7 at 7. We block that attack, and we let the chopper go. Okay. And we see another 5 Elders. Okay, so we're anticipating another swing coming in with the Noshjuro. They have a swing with leader. We're saving our leader's ability. We want to keep our Nami on the board. I doubt they're going to try to swing into our Shotgun Pell. Definitely not into our Kaido. I don't think they have enough power to do that. Okay, so they're trying to utilize the Mars ability here. They're trying to utilize the Mars ability. Hold on real quick. They're trying to use Mars to KO our Nami. We use leader ability. We discard one of our bricks in hand, and we prevent the Nami from being KO'd. Our opponent swings in 7K with the Noshjuro. They give the Nami negative 2,000 power, but we counter out of that with a counter event. Now we got 8K coming in at the Nami, and now we don't have enough counter to protect it. Our opponent has 2 blockers standing. Only 1 card in hand. And 2 Dawn. 5K poke at lead. What's our opponent going to do? Can they counter out of this attack? They counter out with their last card in hand. And here we have another Terracotta in hand. And we go ahead and play it. We're going to be able to give an Alabasta character unblockable. We give the Shotgun Pell unblockable, attach the rest of the Dawn, and we are swinging 17 at lead and landing the lethal swing. Shotgun Pell landing lethal. Red Blue Vivi getting the dub against Emu. GG's to our opponent. Our opponent followed Emu's game plan exactly as they were supposed to, but we were able to protect our board with leader ability. We were able to utilize that Cavendish to just build resources and resources and resources in our hand. One thing about Vivi, we weren't able to utilize this deck's board removal effects, so we did have to adapt our game plan, focusing more on building our resources and swinging around their blockers with our unblockable Terracotta effect. But yeah, that's pretty much everything to show off with Red Blue Vivi. We got a taste of the board removal playstyle against Croc. We got a taste of the resource building playstyle against Emu. It's just so much fun to play Kaido, draw 4 cards, and just swing with 12,000 power. Same with the Shanks. Just overall really fun playstyle. So GG's to both of our opponents today. If you enjoyed the gameplay, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Let me know in the comments too if you're building out Vivi, what tech choices you're experimenting with. But yeah, that's going to do it for today. We'll be back with another one. Peace.